No, five quarter high number. I think it gives us a lot of confidence in the Indian economy.
And also inflation coming down.
Yes.
Drastically coming down.
Yes. But it brings us to a related point, which is on the point of tariffs. Now that tariffs with the US are at 50%, what is the likely impact on the GDP going forward? There are various estimates by various sort of consultancies, from 10 basis points all the way to 100 basis points, some have predicted. Where do you see the impact really of this?
But with the reform like this, many of that should be offset.
Yes.
So it is never a situation of one fixated point. It's a dynamic situation where you're moving from one to another with newer players coming in, newer factors coming into play in this scheme of things. This one, you have the GST reforms, which is going to make people understand that they can fetch more things with the same amount of money with which they bought some amount earlier. So it is very clear that industries have been speaking about the tariff and its impact. The government has designed something for itself. We will come out with something to handhold those who are hit by the 50% tariff from the US. This has been said earlier. I've met up with the delegations when I went to Chennai in recent past few days. I have said this there and I will repeat it. Government is working.
So will they be allowed to sell in India, or how do you plan to alleviate their concerns?
No, there is a package which consists of very many different ways in which we want to help them. So we'll wait for the cabinet to clear it, but there is something coming to help them so that this tirade of the tariff is something which they can face, and also suddenly having to look for newer markets is also a challenge. But we'll have to help them out on that. So
is there a sense in the government that this could be a slightly longer haul?
We hope not, but we really can't leave our exporters high and dry saying it's going to change sooner. We will work with them.
Nirmala ji, will we also continue to buy Russian oil?
Yes, that's been made very plain and simple. Whether it is Russian oil or anything else, it's our decision to buy from the place which suits our needs. Whether in terms of rates, logistics, anything. So where we buy our oil from, especially being a big ticket foreign exchange related item, where we pay so much out of our pocket, highest in terms of import, we will have to take a call which suits us best. So we will undoubtedly be buying.
Another question about, the officials of the Trump administration have been using really hurtful language against India. Saying that we are Brahmins profiteering at the expense of, ordinary Indians, or, calling the Ukraine-Russia war Modi's war, or us as Kremlin's laundromat. How do you see all this? I mean, how do you react to something like this?
Very much the same principle as I said earlier. It is one thing, it can be hurtful. It is one thing for a foreign government head of state or an official or anybody to say all that. And the global diplomatic world is astonished that that kind of an expression is being used against India. And that will have people in the diplomatic arena to respond or to deal with. But what hurts me more is when those very expressions are being justified in India. Oh, don't you all know, don't you, I mean, you know, dirty, unwashed Indians, you don't understand what this expression means? This is how, this is explained. Who wants these explanations from Indians? Who actually wants us to know better? And who are these people explaining to us, this expression is used in this context? Yes. I'm outraged by that. I don't want explanations to justify that. Whether I'm going to have to deal with them, stand up and challenge them or retort is a different story. Right. But Indians quoting those words and telling us, oh, you dirty Indians, you don't know this colonial justification of the language that is being used against Indians, against such countries which have come out of its colony and from its empire and stood up to build its own country. with its own self-confidence. And even now when we are talking about Atmanirbhar, it's not just in terms of producing everything in your country. It's also about being
self-reliant.
There is no self-respect.
Self-respect.
As much as you want everything produced in India for Atmanirbharta, you should have something of a self-respect. If somebody is saying, all of us in one voice should respond to it, rather than have a few of us justify it by saying, don't you all understand it? Are you a part of the imperialists? I'm outraged more by that.
Yeah, the opposition picking up this and making it their own narrative.
And saying...
Like dead economy was picked up by Congress, Rahul Gandhi to say...
And even for this, Brahmins are being are the ones who are benefiting out of it. Oh, you Indians,
us Boston Brahmins.
Yes, Boston Brahmins. Oh, you Indians, you don't understand this Russian oil purchase is to help Brahmins to benefit of it, and you are being fooled. Exactly the same divide and rule principle which the British used here, which the imperialists used here. And even today you have the friends of the imperialists telling us, no, the expression Boston Brahmin is this and not that. Who damn cares? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who damn cares? I want Indians to think for ourselves. I want those Indians who are now defending that language to get up and say, we are free from you all. Now for over 75, 80 years, we'll mind our business, we'll take care of ourselves, refrain from using these words. Should have been that voice. That not being the voice, and upar se to teach us saying, don't you know the meaning of this expression? Outrageous.
Today we've got to know Nirmala Sitharaman ko gussa kyun aata hai. Now, moving on to economy. Any plans to liberalize FDI or FPI regulations further?
I do not want to give a headline, but certainly we are looking at every aspect of reform.
How do we, this is probably the right time to assure foreign investors to invest in India. What are some of the steps that we should take that would give them this confidence? I mean, this one was a big one in itself, but going forward.
First thing, I think our institutions such as Parliament should debate issues, should question government on the proposals, on the policies, on government's actions. That gives confidence to people saying India's democracy actually literally discusses these issues. Without that, the government can go about doing what is right for the public, but the institution of the Parliament is not being used for its prime purpose. Why is it important? It gives a feeling that both the opposition and the ruling parties are talking on issues. Instead of holding placards and standing in the house, if there is a meaningful discussion, it will convey a lot about the policy strength. That is one thing. Second, our regulatory institutions, and I've said this before, but I'll repeat it here. Regulatory institutions should not go to the extent of micromanaging. I want businesses to do their businesses. They have powerful boards which run them, and the regulator, in consultation with the stakeholders, should allow them to function. Of course, keep a watch, right, and do a soft touch regulation. If regulators across the board, I'm not talking just of the finance domain regulators, all over, should have a open-minded approach, a soft touch approach, above all, not micromanage businesses.
Private investment has been a topic of discussion. How do we revive animal spirits, for the private sector to invest? This has been a, discussion that we've been having over the course of many interviews, and you've been also exhorting the private sector. How do we get about?
But I think, to be fair to them, they are moving in.
Okay.
And they are taking decisions about how they want to expand.
So you see a significant change?
I see a significant change, and I see that enthusiasm now in wanting to understand how things will move from the industry. And I'm sure they are conscious that opportunities lie in India and they should do things.
How would you react to S&P's, India's sovereign rating by S&P, which has gone up? High time, would you say?
Yes, and it is, I think, as a result of a lot of work done by the Department of Economic Affairs, the Chief Economic Advisor. They have been persistent with talking with them, giving them adequate data-based information, and their conversations have actually today shown us the result. And I'm glad that they're doing it. They should continue doing it with other agencies also, because with our growth being with what it is, with our fiscal, macroeconomic fundamentals being what they are, with our inflation being under control, with our foreign exchange growing, with our stock market being so buoyant, it is difficult to understand how parameters of similar and comparable nature elsewhere attract a much better rating, whereas ours don't. And conversely, parameters which are worse than ours seem to be having better rating. Just can't explain it. So I think the work of the DEA and the CEA is well cut out in this regard. They will have to work with agencies.
Nirmala ji, you're right about all the macro indicators looking up. But you know, revenue growth for corporate India has remained tepid. It's at a 7-quarter low of 3.7%. How do you explain that? GDP on one hand growing at 7.8%. What really accounts for this?
I think it's also a question of how they're deploying their resources and how they're earning out of it. Businesses will also have to look at the way in which their risk-taking capacities can increase, and that's what is going to be the prime mover in terms of revenues for businesses. So, but that's a business call. It's not for me to say.